And in this lightning talk, building custom workflows for Trello, we'll look at a case study where a customer who was in a spreadsheet hell took Trello APIs and built a custom power-up to improve their lives. Now our next speaker has a classic style all his own, as well as being a developer advocate for Trello. He's dedicated to helping developers build their custom workflows via Trello power-ups. When I first met him after the acquisition, he was living the remote worker's dream of being a digital nomad and living all over the world in an Airbnb. These days, though, he's settled down in New York City. Go Yankees! Please join me in welcoming to the stage Bentley Cook.
Thank you, Ralph. Ralph was disappointed to learn that I just purchased a house in Tennessee. So I'm no longer living the digital nomad dream. I am a big turkey hunter, though, so if you want a 15-minute talk on turkey hunting, come talk to me after this. We can make it 30 minutes. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I am here to talk about how to customize Trello for you and your teams. And just to get a sense of who we have in the crowd, how many people are using Trello today? Cool, cool. How many people are using it for work? Cool. How many people are using it for not work? Okay, a handful of people. Very cool. And also, how many people here are like solutions partners? Okay, and then how many people here are just interested in customizing Trello for their own team's workflows? So not solutions partners. Cool, cool, okay. So this talk is going to be mostly geared around how you can take Trello to the next level for you and your team with private power-ups. It will kind of roll into public power-ups. Also, I'm realizing now that this is a lightning talk, and there's a good pun somewhere about lightning and powering up, but I've missed that. So let's talk about how people use Trello, because how different teams use Trello is kind of key to understanding how to customize and extend Trello. And the example we always like to show off is that people use Trello for all sorts of things. This is the classic one. People have planned their weddings on Trello, and they love tweeting at Trello and letting us know about how their wedding planning is going. People use it for planning vacations. We just announced the map power-up on mobile, so you can add locations to cards, and they all show up on a map. So giving you a new view into the data that you store in Trello. And then, of course, there's the classic Kanban, Scrum project management style flow Trello board where you have your to-do, your doing, and your done, and you move cards across different Trello lists. And Trello's great. Trello's really fun, but Trello's an 80% tool. And that's something that we say internally, and we really take to heart. We know that it's not going to solve all problems for all people 100% of the way. And so we really lean into our ecosystem, power-ups, and the API to fill in that extra 20%. A common workflow that we see at Trello is you start spinning out boards for you and your team. You know, you've got your support and triage board where inbound problems and bugs are reported. That gets handed off to your product team. Then you've got your grooming and backlog board because your engineering team needs a place to put things that they may never get to. Then things eventually get moved into the engineering sprint, and you've just got like all these boards, and each board kind of has a different workflow. You know, maybe you've got Jira Service Desk tickets attached to some cards. You've got Confluence posts attached to other cards. You've got, you know, your release team has a special workflow where when something gets moved to the last list in testing, they want 6 people to sign off and add a comment. And so there are all these really specific workflows that teams have that involve a lot of manual tasks of moving around. Well, the beauty of it is there's a way to automate that and to really dial in your process in Trello to fit you and your team's workflows. And I'm going to dive into this in the context of the Telegraph. They wrote this awesome blog post that I highly recommend checking out. That's the URL for it, but if you just Google Trello integration, the Telegraph, it's the first Google result. But the Telegraph had this problem. They have, if you're unfamiliar with them, they're a news organization, and so they have these different news desks. Each news desk has a number of writers that contribute to different articles. So you've got your business, your sports, your fashion news desks, all sorts of different people, photographers, writers, putting together articles. And they were handing them all off to the portal team. The portal team is responsible for taking those articles, publishing them online, making sure that it was going to the right social media posts at the right time, that it was hitting the blogs at the right time. And to manage all of this, the portal team just had one massive spreadsheet. They would show this spreadsheet up on a big screen for their meetings throughout the day, 2 or 3 times a day. They'd go through this spreadsheet and they'd say, oh, this fashion article is missing a byline. Who wrote this? And the problem was that they had a hard time tracking back who was doing what and what the individual units of work were for that portal, because each of the different teams had a totally different way of tracking their work. Your sports team may use a spreadsheet, your business team may be throwing it into a doc online somewhere, and then your fashion team is just doing it all via email. So it got really hard for them to kind of track data back and figuring out who's responsible, who do we ask for these questions. So they started looking at ways that they could dial in this flow with different tools, and so they gave Trello a try. And the first thing they did that I think is kind of obvious when you look at it from this 1,000-foot view is, oh, let's replace these different data sources with Trello boards. Okay, that makes sense. You add members to cards, those are the writers, use custom fields for keeping track of different information that you need. And then, lo and behold, you toss all of that into a big Trello board for the portal team. They did this, they found out that they really liked it. It solved a lot of their problems. They were able to kind of have better data consistency. But they started hearing a couple of gripes from their team. They said, it takes so long to make a Trello card. We have to go and we have to click all these buttons. We used to just be able to toss it into a spreadsheet. And they said, okay, we hear you, we hear you. The other big complaint was from the portal team. They're like, Trello boards are great, but they're not very data dense. We want a condensed view that we can throw up onto a screen so that everyone can get what they need really quickly. The integrations team said, okay, we hear you. And that's where we landed on Power-Ups. They knew that they could add a better experience and customize workflow in Trello using Power-Ups. You may have heard about Power-Ups, and we just announced the Butler Power-Up, very exciting. We've got tons of really cool public Power-Ups. And they allow you to do all sorts of things, integrate with different products, dial in, you've got Blue Jeans, Zendesk, we've got Power-Ups for Confluence, Bitbucket, and Jira. But one thing that a lot of people don't know is that you can actually build a Power-Up just for your team. We call these custom Power-Ups. And custom Power-Ups are really freaking easy to build. They're just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. You use backend service, whatever you want. We've got examples in JavaScript throughout our documentation that I'll show you a little bit later on. And when you go and create a custom Power-Up, what you're doing is you're enabling the ability to add some sort of Trello-y, delightful user experience to your Trello boards. We call them capabilities, and these are different things that your Power-Ups can take use of to kind of add those different experiences to Trello. And I'm going to walk through a few of these just to kind of whet your appetite to see what's possible out there. We've got buttons, so if you go and check out on the right-hand side there, let me see if I can do that. Oh yeah, look at that. So those are Trello card buttons. So someone's clicked on a card, they've opened the card back, and those are the buttons that come core to Trello. And you'll notice down below, we've got the Power-Ups card button section. So these are buttons that are being dynamically added by Power-Ups. And you can imagine you're in full control of these. So at the point in time that a user clicks on one of your Power-Ups buttons, you can decide what to do next. Send data to a different board, open up a modal to get some extra information. We also have buttons on boards. So we see on the bottom left here, we've got the calendar and template board buttons. So again, you can add dynamic buttons to your Trello boards that you're in full control of once the user clicks on those. On the card back, once you've opened a Trello card, we've got this nice big section for the Jira and Bitbucket Power-Ups that we're using. Down at the bottom there, it's all iframes. Again, super easy to use, all JavaScript, nothing fancy happening here. It's iframes top to bottom. And so you're in complete control of that iframe that's being rendered there. The Jira and Bitbucket power-ups are going and pulling data in from Jira and Bitbucket and providing extra information and context to the attachments that have been added to this card. And we also have badges. Badges are what show on the card front at the top there. You can see that red and green, as well as the little Bitbucket, Jira, and Confluence icons to let you know that you have maybe issues or pull requests attached. You can color them based on whatever information you care about coloring. And similarly, on the card back at the bottom there, you can have static badges. You can have dynamic badges that do something when clicked. And my favorite part is that all of the things that we provide to you, we try really, really hard to make it easy to do the right thing and really hard for you to do the wrong thing. And a lot of times in Trello, doing the wrong thing means making something that's not delightful or Trello-y. So we spend a lot of time trying to ensure that we have great user experiences out of the box for you to take advantage of so that your users are used to, they see the Trello UI and it's something that you can extend yourself. Here we've got examples of the modal in the peer in power-up. So it's a nice big full screen modal that you are in control of. In the top right, we have dynamic alerts so that you can let users know about things happening in the background of your app. And then we also have a selector pop-up happening in the bottom right there. So again, these are just kind of meant to whet your appetite so you can kind of think, oh, how could I use one of these to dial in a workflow? So back to the Telegraph. They heard from all of their different users and they said, okay, we're going to build a custom power-up to dial in our experience and really make sure our team gets everything it can out of Trello. And so this is what they ended up with on their portal board. The big black boxes, those are just redacted information. Asked for this picture, they were like, well, we haven't published all these articles yet, so let me redact them all. So that's what all those are. You can imagine at the top of those are like, breaking news, something, something, something happened in fashion. But if you zoom in, you can see, I do not work at a news desk. You can see that they're using custom fields, which are the pencil and little link. So those are some custom fields from the public custom fields power-up that they've defined. But then that nice blue badge with a time on it is a card badge that their power-up is adding themselves. So that lets them keep track of times of publishing for articles. And then when we go and check out the top right, we see, lo and behold, they've got some custom board buttons. And so there's two things that they heard from their users were that we can't create cards fast enough, and also there's not a good list view. So they said, okay, we'll fix that with a power-up. When you click on that Fast Create button, it opens this modal. Again, this is just an iframe. They're in complete control of what's shown in this modal. And they put in inputs for the fields that they required on cards, including the custom fields and their own custom due dates. This allowed their team to very quickly get in there and add a new card without having to click around, similar to the tools that they were previously using. And then the other thing that they had heard was, hey, there's not a data-dense view for showing all of our Trello cards. And so they created this nice, big view. Again, this is all redacted information, so imagine this has lines on it very similar to a spreadsheet. You can see all of the published dates, all of the headlines, and then on the right, you can see all of the different pieces of information they're pulling from their Trello cards. So they've taken the data that they're storing in Trello, and they've just remixed it in this modal, and they're getting the view that they need out of it and still able to show it on a Trello board. So you can imagine throughout the day, the portal team's working on the Trello board moving cards around, but then when they need to show this on a big screen or during a stand-up, they just click on that board button, and they've got the view that they've been looking for, custom tailored to their team. So that is how Telegraph leaned into building a custom power-up to really make sure that their team was getting the most out of Trello. One of the key things, though, about workflows is all the examples you saw is kind of like the people doing things in Trello, clicking buttons, very focused on user clicks this thing, and then we show something. But something that also is worth taking advantage of in Trello are webhooks. Webhooks are something we've had for a very long time, and as you heard in the keynote, we just recently added enterprise-level webhooks So you can receive notifications about actions as they incur in your Trello enterprise. So when you go and you create a webhook with Trello, you tell us, hey, I want you to send information about these actions on this Trello board, this Trello card, this URL, this Trello enterprise, and I want you to send all this information to the URL you provide. And so here, you can imagine that if you wanted to have a workflow that created new cards whenever it saw a new card created in your triage inbox, you could register a webhook to listen for the create card action, and then your service could Trello would notify you about that incoming webhook and say, hey, there was a create card action that occurred in your triage inbox, and now you can go and spin off and automate the workflow that you need to. And we have actions for everything. Anything that happens in Trello, I guarantee you that you can receive an action for it. You create webhooks via the Trello API, and one of the beauties about Trello's API is that everything you can do in the Trello client, you can do via the API. There are no hidden routes, there's nothing special. The same API that the web client, the desktop, and the mobile app all use, it's the same API that we unlock for third-party developers. It's great. One of the little hacks I loved, I learned when I first started was someone said, hey, how does this work in the API? The quickest way to find out is, well, maybe first go to our developer docs, but you can also open the network tab of your browser and you can watch the API requests that the web client's making because it's the exact same API. You can copy it and start making those same requests yourself. So really easy to figure out what's happening behind the scenes. There's no magic man behind the curtain. And tons of teams are out there making custom power-ups. As of August 2018, which was a while ago, shame on Bentley for not updating this, we had 4,500 custom power-ups created across 3,600 Trello teams. So Telegraph isn't the only one out there building custom power-ups for their teams. Tons of teams are out there doing it. And like I said, getting started is really easy. We have a ton of projects of custom power-ups ready to go for you on our docs. We use glitch.com as a way of hosting them. I guarantee you, you can get a custom power-up spun up for your team in 5 minutes. It's super easy. If you can't, come give me a hard time. I'm happy to help you do it. We also have other people from our ecosystem team here. But go check out developers.trello.com. That's where we have all of this documented. And I'm always happy to talk about power-ups. If you just, maybe you don't have code questions, but you just want to riff on an idea and say, hey, is this possible? We were thinking about doing this, and kind of have that product ideation. Love to spend some time with you, hacking on it, riffing on that idea, and helping you customize Trello for your own use case. So thank you for having me. And with that, I'll hand it back to the Yankees fan, Ralph Whitbeck.
Woo. Go Yankees. Hey, thanks, Bentley, for that look into power-ups. We only got a minute. I just wanted to share, I recently saw the power of custom power-ups, and a developer at Trello wrote a custom power-up to help me manage running our quarterly ship it, which is this logo here on the back of my clipboard. So I help run our remote ship it for all of the remote employees in Atlassian. And the task involved, making sure everybody got started at the right time, ended at the right time, but the most important task was to run the demos at the end of it. And this involved us using a Trello board, obviously, where we manage everything. Everybody posted a card of the project they were doing. They would post a link to YouTube in on that card. And then when it came time to live show the demos over a Zoom meeting, we would open up the card, click on the YouTube video, it would open up a new tab, we would play it, we would close the tab, go back to Trello, close the card. It was apparently painful for some of these Trello developers. So after the last demo that we had, he showed me this custom power-up where we load the custom power-up onto the board, we tell it which column all of the videos are going to be on, and it opens up this iframe which just automatically plays all of the YouTube videos. So basically you program me out of a job. So there you go. Ask yourself though, I would never would have thought of doing something like that. So look closely at your workflow and really ask yourself, how can I make this easier on myself? So with that, that's all the time we have right now.